Hey everybody, it's the end of June. Let's do a garden tour. Things have very much changed since the end of May. Let's see what we got going. So you can see all the lettuce is bolted here in the front. We have gone through and planted bush beans. However, because they're not up yet, I am slowly cropping out this garlic and giving it to our bunnies, who they still think it is just fantastic. But the reason why I'm doing that, I'm not just taking it all out to begin with, is the shade will keep the soil moist to help the germination of the beans, but also the soil needs to be fed by living roots. If there is nothing feeding the soil is feeding on itself. You will hear me repeat that all the time. It is such a valuable thing to know. Now, tomatillos are just going wild. I'm so excited for them. We had a yellow one ready the other night, and that was the first time me and my family have ever had a tomatillo. It was like this really delicious cross between like a pepper and a tomato. It was just wonderful. I see why they're used in salsa. Like, it was just delicious. And you can see we have to get out here and get some pruning done. We've got some yellow pear tomatoes ready, and everything is just heavy with fruit. My yellow pears are typically the ones to get sick first, and they're doing okay. They are. Now you can see some leaf curl down here. I am withholding water from my tomatoes because they are so heavy with fruit. I don't want them to split. So as soon as these bottom trusses are harvested, I will begin watering as normal so that all of these fruit up here on the top that is just beginning to get set will have plenty of water to grow and get big. And all those wonderful things. But even look, the atomic tomatoes are coming in. I'm excited about those. Those are from Wild Boar Farms. So pumped. I've got a little side shoot. I might save that for my fall garden. We're going to do a whole video on fall garden. Where I live, we have a very, very long growing season. Because our growing season is like 200 days, we technically have like 3 separate gardens. We'll have a spring garden, a summer garden, and a fall garden because some crops just can't handle our heat, so we have to grow them in cooler weather. So that being said, now that it is July, I will be sowing those things so they get a lot of growth in. That way in fall, I'm doing mostly just harvesting and they're not doing a lot of growing because with the shorter daylight, they won't grow as fast. Now, some of those things I will grow, like fall tomatoes, and as long as they are of substantial size, they will continue to ripen and still set fruit for me. And the way I do that is I don't start from seed, is I will actually prune suckers and root my suckers into some pots, keep those pots well nourished until I'm ready to plant them into the ground, especially in places where I have determinate tomatoes, because my determinants are going to set all their fruit right now and then they're just going to be done. So that's where the fall tomatoes will go first. Speaking of determinants, here are the determinate Romas. They are so heavy with fruit, they're just falling down. So I will say we did have to go through and we knocked some fruit off when we did it, but we had to replace the stakes. So you see these green, I call them baby T-posts, these little tiny ones. They're not that much more expensive than the plastic ones, and they hold up so much better. And I did a Florida weave on them, and I'm not sure if you can see from this angle, but this section isn't pruned quite as well, but I pruned off the bottom, so I don't really want leaves touching the ground. I have some touching the ground. I need to go through again. But even when you're doing a Florida weave, or if you're doing like a no prune type of take on it, you still want to make sure that you don't have leaves touching the ground, because they're going to decay, and then little decaying pests like roly-polies and slugs and things are going to come and take care of that for you, and you don't want them getting too munch happy and going all the way up your plants. So our beans are doing good. They had some fungus issues. You can see all the leaves on the bottom. But as you can see, we sprayed with copper and we are getting new growth on all the green leaves. It's all coming back. It'll be fine. They'll recover. When plants get sick early in the season, it affects your yield. That is more of a time to really treat them. Late in the season, I probably would have just let it run its course and then maybe amended the soil specifically for something like that. But because it was so early in the season, it really would have affected the yield we got. So we treated them. And on top of that, the beans and the cucumbers, you can see here a little bit still left, powdery mildew, which the cucumbers did not seem to notice. They have just been producing like gangbusters. I already see some cucumbers that we need to come and get. Now these are Space Master cucumbers. They are not going to get like 18 feet tall. So that's why they're kind of stopping right about there. It's as tall as they're going to get. And I have to say, if I had them on a cattle panel, like I do the tomatoes down there, I probably wouldn't care too much, but we weren't sure if we were even going to be able to get cattle panels this year. We were. That was wonderful. We'll use it next year. But that is why I chose that variety. We have more determinates in the front that are getting ready. Oh, look. I'm getting ready. You guys, I have been waiting a year to put a tomato on a sandwich. I'm so excited. Eating seasonally, because if I grow everything in my garden and I eat it and then I'm tired of it and then I make myself wait, it is so good. And you know, I work harder in my garden for the things, especially something like a tomato that really takes a lot. The seed, the transplanting, the fertilizing, making sure they don't get sick to get to the fruiting stage. So I will work a lot harder if I have been waiting for that tomato to put on a sandwich or something. It's some good motivation in the garden for me, at least. You hear the humming back there? You have a little one joining us on the garden tour today. Next to the tomatoes, a very, very sad squash. We had zucchini in the front, trombonzino in the back, and we have just one left, one little late bloomer. But they got root rot so bad. And I'm going to be careful, and I'm going to go ahead and treat. Now, root rot is a virus. It's a disease. It's not from overwatering. It's not from soggy soil. Soggy soil will cause your roots to decay, but the actual root rot is a disease. It's a kind of, hard when they give it a name like that. So you can have rotting roots that is not a disease, but actual root rot is a disease. And more cucumbers. These ones didn't get sick quite as much. These are Space Master and American Pickling. You can see like the smoother cucumber back there. These nasturtium are trying their hardest. I thought I got the vining ones. These are clearly a bush one. But because I don't have any salad left, we haven't been harvesting from them. But nasturtium is great for keeping cucumber beetles away, and I think that is why these plants are healthier. So a lot of viruses and diseases are spread from the frass or poop of bugs, specifically beetles. Beetles bring a lot of disease to the garden, and cucumber beetles are very, very common. So that is one reason why I think these ones are a little more healthy, because that nasturtium is there with them. So we have more bush beans. These ones are just starting to crop. You can see we're starting to get beans on them. They're getting there. Some little ones on this guy. These ones early on also got sick with a fungus. You can see some of the yellow leaves. But the new growth in the top is getting darker. Same thing with these pole beans. They got copper because they just got sick early on, which is unfortunate. My family eats a lot of beans, so we are going to have to do something maybe preventative next year to keep them from getting sick so early. You have to remember, this is the first time we're gardening in this garden. We moved, and this is the first time we've had a garden here, so we're still learning the soil and everything. Now this are more Romas. You can see they are just packed with fruit. These are my striped Romas. These were given to me by a friend. I can't wait till they blush. They're going to be lovely. I am curious if the taste is different or if they're just pretty. I don't know. Now these were supposed to be Romas, and they're not. And I don't know what they are. When they were first developing, I go, oh, they're round. They're a cherry. Because none of my slicers are round. Like Kellogg's Breakfast, it's not really round. It's like just giant. And we have a pineapple, and we have a solar flare, and those all look, you know, very heirloomy. They don't look round like this. So I don't know if perhaps the seed packet got messed up. These look like kind of like a tomato on the vine you'd get from the store. I don't know. And the trusses, you can see there's only like 3 or 4 per truss. There's not many. So I don't know what these are. And I was really good about labeling my Romas because I started them late by accident. So like they were the only ones that were the size they were at the time. So me getting them messed up seems less likely than these aromas. Then, you know, the seed packet might have gotten mixed up. And that happens with seed companies. A friend of mine ordered tomatillo seeds one time, and she ended up getting ground cherry seeds. Ground cherries are kind of like the cherry tomato of tomatillos, but you can't really use them the same. And they're very, very tiny. And the seeds look identical. They're the same size and everything. But it just happens with seed companies. Everybody makes mistakes. Back here we have chili peppers. They are putting on some chilies. You can see they're doing great and bushing out. Now I will say this big one in the middle I pinched off earlier than these smaller ones. They all got pinched, but the bigger ones got pinched earlier in the season. I'm going to make sure I do that. Do you hear our little visitor who's on the garden tour with us? He wants to talk too. So we've got our chili peppers over here. You can see our chili peppers are doing really good. They're making a lot of chilies. I have not been the best pepper grower in the past, but this year seems like it is going to be a good year. And our bell peppers, which I only got 2. I had weird germination on the bell peppers. I'm not sure what really happened. I think perhaps it was just old seed. But they're doing pretty good, and you can see we had just a ridiculous amount of rain, you guys. Like, I think it was like 4 or 5 days where it did nothing but rain. Like, not rainy, but rain. So this overwatering peppers can really lighten the leaves. You can see some of these look very light, but they're starting to, with the new foliage, darken up. And they're doing good. Now all of these are snack peppers. The reason I have so many snack peppers is, yes, we like them. I do plan on freeze drying them, but they just had better germination for me this year than the bell peppers did. So that's just what we ended up planting. So that is why we have so many, but they're doing really good. I'm surprised because of the overwatering, but they're still putting on peppers like gangbusters. So I'm excited to see what colors they turn, because these seeds were like a rainbow snack pepper, and I am excited. And also below these Romas and the weird ones that I don't know what they are carrots, who are growing great in the shade. So you can see these ones are growing the best. They're a little less shaded. They're a little less shaded, but still have some shade, and they're growing really well. And a lot of times, carrots more or less need the shade to germinate, and they really do for growth. So we'll see how they do. Carrots in the summer is not a thing where I live. We'll see what we can do with them. And the dill has bloomed. Dill is one of those things that you can still use when it blooms, but you just have to use a little more of it. It doesn't change the flavor in a bad way, it just kind of dampens it. But you can definitely still use it. And the comfrey is just being a beast and taking over. And it's because I did not pick anything off of her to put in the compost pile, because we were gone for a week in North Carolina to visit some friends. Therefore, I didn't want to make my husband turn a compost pile every other day. He had enough chores. But the oregano too, the basil, our cilantro is flowering, this one and this one. Cilantro is another crop I grow in spring and fall. I got my spring ones in late, and that's why I didn't get a whole lot off of them. The rosemary though, she's getting bigger. When you start rosemary from seed, they take a long time. I probably will not get anything from her this year, but next year, for sure. More Thai basil and walking onions. And you can see the walking onions are so close. They will be ready like end of summer, which is perfect. Perfect because that will be the time that my bulb onions will be needing to go in. So my little walking onion babies are already planted, and then the bulb onions will go in around them and get cropped out long before they need the room. So that's a wonderful thing. And I think I might come through and spoon these. And when I say spoon them, you just take a spoon and like run it around the bulb so the clay soil isn't so tight and it can kind of bulb out a little more. Walking onions don't bulb a ton. They're a little more shalloty. But even still, if I come through and crop the top and then do the spoon around the bottom, that might give them a little help. Now here, it's not been taken care of well. This is our strawberries, and I let them go to runners. Like if you don't want your runners and you just want your berries, you're gonna need to clip the runners off and give them something like more bloom or something to keep them blooming. However, because this was our first year with them and I want more strawberries that I do not have to buy next year, I let the runners go. And you can see we have our fig tree and our bunnies. So in between the fig tree and the blackberry, we're going to do a whole nother row, and it's going to be nothing but strawberries. And in this side, I put asparagus with it, which is a common thing to do in a small garden because their root systems don't mess with each other and they don't use the same nutrients from the soil. But because of that, I was not able to fertilize with anything acidic, which is what a berry plant wants, because that would have really hurt the asparagus. Hopefully when we do, oh my goodness, the chickadees are just fussing at me. There's chickadees, hang on, let me show you. Chickadees and a bluebird. They have babies. That's the eastern bluebird house. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's the chickadee. And the one next to it on the other side, that's the eastern bluebird house. But oh, that chickadee just fusses at me. Fusses whenever I'm on this side of the garden. Do you see they're flapping her wings, just being, oh my goodness. There's the eastern bluebird mommy and daddy. They're still building their nests. We had one set of eastern bluebirds who already had babies and they left. And this is a new set. And then we have this chickadee who's just so fussy. She's upset with me. I was talking about my strawberry. She's going to be really upset when I till up that ground and make a garden there and have all my strawberries. I'm going to have to be over there a lot. But that'll be fine. So, strawberries are berries. They like very acidic soil. And they just have to be fertilized a little differently. Like I said, putting more bloom on them or something to keep them blooming. Where my asparagus don't need that at the same time that the strawberries would. Therefore, as much as they can be planted together, I don't love it. And I'm actually moving this entire bed of strawberries. We're not going to even have them here next year. We have more. Here's the Thai basil when it blooms. Isn't it lovely? It looks a little bit like holy basil, but this is Thai basil. I gave somebody this and they said they hated it. And I was like, really? What did you use it in? They go, well, our pasta sauce. I was like, oh no. Thai basil is Asian food, not Italian food. And they were like, oh my goodness. So they tried it in some stir fry and said it was fantastic. But yes, so make sure you know your basil and how to use it because they are used very differently. And we see in here, I put in a soaker hose. I was trying not to overhead water as much. Overhead watering causes diseases and leaf fungus. So I put the soaker hose in. I don't know if I love it. It's okay. Soaker hoses are just, you can see I have one section there, one section here. It kind of loops around. But more peppers, doing good. This little one had some root bugs that I just kept compost teaing it and it healed itself. But it definitely had some root bugs that were stunting it. But it's coming along now. You can see it's got some good growth on it. And then these zinnias are just lovely. Lovely, lovely. I like zinnias because they're like a giant flashing sign for pollinators. The garden's over here, over here. So you'll hear me say this every garden tour because I just like saying it, but the zinnia color is not actually the petal, it's a bracket. If you can see, the bee is only going to the little yellow part in the middle. That is the actual flower where the pollen and the stamen and the pistil are. It's pretty cool. What's up, babe?
Hey, Mommy, can I have one of those new breakfast protein bars?
Yeah, you can have one of the breakfast protein bars. So here, so now I said with all that rain, we had some terrible blossom end rot. I did not treat with calcium because I knew it was from the rain. But the Jersey Devils got hit the most. But the ones that made it are doing good. So when you see blossom end rot, it doesn't necessarily mean a calcium deficiency. It means your plant is not uptaking calcium, and that can mean a couple different things. And a lot of times, a ton of water will cause them not to be able to take up calcium. What's wrong, sir? Are you not happy on the garden tour today? You want to get down? You can do that. Okay, I'm taking the little one inside. Big sister is getting him something snacky, and let's finish this garden tour. Calcium deficiencies a lot of time is from overwatering, where the plant just can't take up calcium. If you really feel like you need to give your plant calcium, CalMag, calcium and magnesium, is probably your better bet. Plants need magnesium to take up calcium, kind of like we need vitamin D to absorb vitamin K. But also, if you know it happened because of a heavy rain, you can just do nothing and it will dry out and fix itself. Something else about blossom end rot. If your tomatoes are blushing and they have blossom end rot, bring them inside and you can leave them on the counter and they will ripen, and then just cut off the little blossom end and you still have a good chunk of your tomato that is still usable. But if you leave it out here, a lot of times it just kind of rots or molds, and that's never good. So if it's already blushing and it already has the chemicals in it that's going to start it to ripen, it will continue to ripen if you bring it in. You guys, my new friend. Here she is. Riding spiders are fantastic in your garden. All spiders are fantastic in your garden. You want to talk about a predator for your pests, these are it. And the thing about it is, a lot of predators, like crickets and centipedes, will eat pests on the ground, but these guys can get flying pests. So they can get things like the moth that lays the eggs for vine borers. They can get, all kinds of things that are up in the air. They are so valuable. So I am doing my best to just give her a lovely life and ask her to stay. And she's been just wonderful for us. On to our Amish paste. Tried and true. You see how big these suckers are. Amish paste. Oh, look. Here's what I was talking about. Blossom end rot. Okay, I'm going to take this one in, but see, it's already blushing. So I can use pretty much all of that tomato and just cut off, this spot. And that's enough to not go to waste. So I'm going to take this one in. And our beans that are sick and very frustrating for me. But the copper definitely seems to be working. However, it's not magic. It does take some time. Oh look, we have a cucumber in with the beans. What are you doing, sir? The cucumbers are still producing and they are still doing fantastic as far as flavor goes. A lot of times in hot humidity, cucumbers will get bitter. That has not happened yet. We had to harvest the giant trombonzino. I don't know. I have to really look into squash more. I needed to do, I think, a little more mycorrhiza and dig a bigger hole and put like a giant spot of like wet, good compost in it. Because where does squash grow best? Out of the compost pile, not in the garden. Everything back here these are Hungarian ox hearts. Now, I had talked a little bit about it in a reel. I know everybody doesn't see everything. So there was some sawdust here. I didn't think much of it, and it was after we had tilled, and the sawdust was here. You see the grass is kind of grown, but I bet you that sawdust being on top robbed some nitrogen, and that's why these are so small, considering how big the other tomato plants are. Like even the Jersey Devils in front of them are much, much taller. But they're getting there. They'll be okay. They'll take off soon enough. Actually, this one looks, see that purple? This one looks a little sick. A little phosphorus deficiency. This one's extra spindly. To see what we can do about that. We fertilize with compost tea and fish hydrolysate. They're pretty gentle if used correctly. Perhaps that one just needs a little more. Cucumbers are still going crazy. Now these are the size I like for pickles. For pickles, and I'll show probably another video, we can them, but we like pasteurize can them, so we don't actually boil the water. That way the pickles stay crispy. I'll show you how to do that in another video, in a kitchen video. Our slicers are so close, you guys. So the Kellogg's breakfast in here is doing great. We have some pink. This is a pink ox heart, and you can see they're kind of heart shaped. They kind of come to a point. This one looks a little more like it than the big one, but they're getting there. And this over here is a pineapple tomato. These are all slicers. I don't grow a ton of slicers. Me and my one son are the only ones that really like a tomato sandwich. Oh no, look at this. There is a pest about. Look at that little stinker. Just gonna pull you off, sir. So a lot of times I will notice the poop of a pest over the actual pest. So that is a good sign, an indicator. Look at how I broke that putting this cattle panel in. They were so big by the time we got the cattle panels and put them in. It was not ideal. We have some more zinnias. Now here's all the cherries, my kids' favorite section. You can see they need to come out here. I need to get some of these. But cherries, doing good. Yellow pear. I really like the trusses of these. These are doing fantastic. And here are, oh look, they're ready. So here are our tomatillos. So tomatillos, the thing about this though is even though they're turning brown, now these are like mammoth sized tomatillos. You can see they are not filling out. This one's filled out, but they should kind of crack the husk, I have learned. So something's going on. See, this is already turning brown, the stem. So kind of like a ground cherry, if it falls on the ground, it's definitely ripe, but you want it to crack the husk so it's not sticky inside. And if it is, you want to let it dry out a little bit before you use it. But these tomatillos are just going crazy and sprawling everywhere. Not even sure how to trellis these guys. Like I said, this is my first year growing tomatillos. Definitely like them. Definitely want to grow them again. However, I'm still learning. Still figuring out how the best thing for them is. And I have noticed the yellow and the purple don't sprawl as much. They grow a little more like a tree. But the green ones just go everywhere. Here you can see my sunflower's face down. She is getting ready to drop her seed. We'll have to harvest that head and eat that sunflower seed. I do grow sunflowers to eat the seeds. We like sunflower seeds. You can see now something's going on with the chamomile. I thought it was a nitrogen deficiency or some kind of nutrients, but as you can see, this tomato, who is a heavy feeder, is fine. Therefore, I don't think that's what it is. I think it's overcrowding. I put too many in a pocket. I think they're not getting sufficient light. See, look down here. But they are flowering. And they're lovely. And we'll get a harvest off of them. I got to make sure I save the seed. Something else that will be probably in my fall seed video is saving seed. So saving seed and cross-pollination and all of that is like a whole thing to get into. It's not difficult, it's just you need to understand it. It's like grasping a concept more than learning a skill. So we will get into all that. I do like saving my seed. However, if you have any kind of open pollinated F1 hybrids, I'm a big fan of F1 hybrids because they have been made to grow well in poor conditions. I like F1 hybrids, but you can't save seed from them. However, there are a lot of things I do save seed from. I'll show you how we do that. And it just lowers the garden cost in the end. And who doesn't want that? Because anything that is a hobby can be expensive. Things I hadn't shown you. This is my son's dill. And he planted not one, but two of these in a hole in this rock. And, you know, I thought it wouldn't grow. And I just kind of let him do it for, you know, whatever reason. And I cannot believe it. It is done so well and so lovely. I can't believe it grew out of a hole in a piece of concrete. Things just really want to grow. Like, it always astounds me how much things will fight to grow. This basil, we need to take some of this in, get it freeze dried. And one thing I wanted to show you, which was really cool. So we've talked about asphyxiated blossoms before, but I've never been able to see one on a sunflower. You see that asphyxiated sunflower? Not the coolest thing. Now, asphyxiated blossoms are kind of like I guess like a genetic deformity, but aren't they neat? I think it goes like a sandwich. This one. And you see all these. Now, we actually do go ahead and eat them when they're white, as long as they've been pollinated. So something like this is delicious, and they're very, very sweet at this stage. I'm going to take you guys down to see our fig tree and our blackberry. I have not shown that in any garden tour yet. They're in the backyard, but they're not like in the main garden, so I tend to forget about them. My children do not forget about them, but they are doing wonderful. They are over here next to the compost. I won't forget about them next year because we are going to be expanding the garden right up to them. So here they are. One blackberry, she was planted this year. And you can see she is just, I need to get more trellis up for her. I mean, she is just huge. We planted her in coast of Maine berry soil. You can see, look how big she's getting. I need to get her more trellis. Sorry, love. This one starting to go through the fence. Now this, oh my goodness, look at the ants. Oh wow, look on all the aphids. So, why did this happen? Well, the plant got stuck, stressed, and that caused them to think that this is a good place to do that. We'll just knock them off. These are not, are these aphids? Yeah, they're aphids. Now the thing about aphids is, once you knock them off, they're really not very good at climbing back up a stem. Oh, look at this. We have a lovely, lovely little spider who's just going to eat all these for us. See if we can't feed that spider some more aphids. There we go. So, when a plant is stressed, or even if part, like a piece of the plant is stressed, it will attract pests. It literally kind of puts out, I'm not even sure, they talk about it when they talk about Brix testing. If it's like a vibration or if it's like a scent, but it will attract pests to it, kind of like to take it out. Look at how happy that spider is. I'm just saying, I love spiders. I don't love spiders, but I love them in my garden, and they are great companions for all things. However, and it kind of makes me wonder, they go, healthy plants don't attract pests. So when a mosquito bites me, question how healthy I am that I made that mosquito attracted to me to bite me. So just kind of makes me question my life, and my choices, and my health when things like that, information like that has been shared. So as you can see though, we have gotten some berries. My children have come and harvested these. We've got a few more. Now I did plant the thornless ones because, you know, I have little kids. We have some raspberries that are not thornless, but they are out front. And we're going to get a better trellis for them. And I'm hoping to be able to extend it this way and this way. That Coast of Maine berry soil is fantastic. I plan on using it in the new strawberry bed next year. Figs. This fig, look, is such a trooper. So this we ripped out of the ground after it had already had leaves on it from our old house. Ripped it out of the ground. It sat in a giant wagon filled with water through like 4 frost nights. Finally got the thing planted, and I have just been composting it like crazy. You can see like this is damage. It's not going to heal, all of this, so I'll have to prune her. But she even still is producing figs for us. Fig trees are amazing. Really cool thing about figs, the flower is on the inside of the fruit, and figs, depending on the variety, it's only pollinated by one wasp, and different varieties have a certain wasp that will go and pollinate it, but it will actually go into the fig, lay eggs. When they hatch, those little wasps will pollinate the flower on the inside, and there's always male and female. They will go ahead and mate, come out, and then they will fly off already kind of, I guess, impregnated or fertilized, the female wasps, and come back next year. Now, the time they are doing it is before the figs are even this size, so you will never bite into a fig and eat a wasp. They are long gone by now, and the figs are nowhere near ready. However, is that not just the coolest way for something to be pollinated? It's like backwards. And the wasps are actually like almost microscopic. They're like teensy tiny little guys. And that's how they can go into the figs and like not really cause like a big hole or anything that you'll notice. But figs are amazing. And this is our elderberry tree. We have treated her with some compost tea. She was sick and she's getting a little bit better. You can see down here, not so good. But we are going to get her planted. You can see all her little shoots. It's so neat. But here is our Coast of Maine acid-loving plants. I called it berry soil. It's acid-loving plant soil. But yeah, see, it says berries on there. I knew it did. But yeah, so this is a fantastic company. Fantastic product. Very consistent. And on top of that, a very decent price. It's not like a market gardener price where, you know, you're having to buy in bulk for it to be reasonable. This is very reasonable. But yeah, so elderberry. And sometimes you forget that elderberry is a berry, but they do. They like acidic soil. So that's why they grow up so well up here in our clay soil, and they'll grow a lot of times around pines and stuff like that. So she is going to go across from our fig right here. You can see our sweet bunnies. Hi, babies. You ready to be moved? So we rotationally graze our bunnies, and we move them every single day. We have not moved them today, but you can see they have plenty of grass. And they have plenty of water, and that tarp is on them for shade. The white one is an Angora. She definitely needs more shade than the average bunny. But rabbits will typically have a problem with overheating. They very, very much prefer the cold. But we are going to run them along this space back and forth for their manure for the new garden spaces. You see that chickadee fussing at me? Look, you hear her fussing? Good night. I hear you. I'll move in a minute, darling. So the rabbit manure is fantastic for the garden. Rabbit manure is a cold manure, meaning it doesn't have to be composted before you put it on your garden. Lots of other animals have it too, like alpacas and llamas and things. But the thing about rabbit manure is it will balance the pH of your garden, which is great for garden plants. It is not great for berry plants or anything like that that prefers an acidic soil. So keep that in mind when you are fertilizing with rabbit manure. And a lot of people use rabbit manure and make like a tea, and then they'll spray it as like a foliar spray. Also great for your garden. However, be careful what you spray it on. It's really good for vegetables. not great for acid-loving plants. God, it's getting hot this summer. I put my hair up. Thank you for being with me in my garden. Everything is growing and going wild, and I will continue showing how we harvest, what we harvest. We have fall garden planting coming really soon, which I'm so excited about. Cabbages and broccoli and all the wonderful cauliflower, radishes, all those wonderful things that I have to grow. Oh, peas. We're also growing a bunch of peas I'm excited about. All those things grow in fall for us or in spring. I'm excited to talk about how we do that and the expansion of our garden. Everything that we're doing, we're actually doing a huge expansion. We're probably almost tripling our garden size, and I'm excited to share that with you guys. So, more videos to come. Thank you for being in the garden. It was so much fun for me to share. I love to babble about it. Thank you for being here with me.